Going on, guys? Welcome, Rabid here, and today we're going to be looking at the best miner for Dero on your CPU. So I know some of you guys have been waiting for this for a little bit now, but let's do a little background story. And if I get something wrong, be sure to let me know in the comments so that we can get the proper information out there. So originally we did have Dero. It was on the V2, and then XMRig did add support, but it opened the floodgates for FPGAs. Now the hash rate went through the moon. Dero is supposed to be a majority CPU mineable coin. There should be no other platform with a bigger advantage over CPU. So then the version 3 fork came in. We had the original Dero miner on a 3900X that was about 6 kilohash. Then Dero Plus came in, rocking about 10 to 11 kilohash. So almost twice the hash rate, about 75%, something like that. But the original Dero miner was still finding twice as many blocks as Dero Plus. Now, ever since then, it's been a few months, and now we do have ASIC and Uranus, and now we're going to figure out what the heck is the best miner. Hansen, who also has the Hansen mod, released the miner as well. So I tested all three miners out to see which one is the best miner for our CPUs. So just for a background on how I actually did do my tests, is I took 6 individual 3900X rigs per node. So I ran 2 nodes, one's on my little node box there, one's there. So I used total of 12 3900X rigs, 6 on each node at the exact same time, so it didn't matter what the hash rate on the network or anything was. They were going head to head. Then when I was done my test, I brought this rig here. This is rig 18. I brought it out, threw it on the power meter to see at the wall how much power each one of these miners use as well. So I got all the results. We're going to figure out which miner did find the most amount of blocks, and we're also going to go through the power consumption at the wall for your complete system. That's your CPU, your SSD, RAM, everything. I tested 1 stick, 2 stick, XMP profile on, XMP profile off, just to get an idea of how a single 3900X rig works. Then after 24 full hours, a complete day, I then swapped each miner between the nodes. So example, let's say AstroMiner was here, Uranus was here. The following day, I then put AstroMiner here and Uranus there and went head to head again. And I did this between Uranus and AstroMiner to find out a winner. Once I did get a winner, I then put that up against Hansen's miner. And now let's jump to the results. All right, so let's take a look at the hash rate between the 3 individual miners. And I kind of have them grouped up here. You can see Hansen miner on rig 1 to 6 is about 8.5 to 9 kilohash. AstroMiner on rig 7 to 12 is about 13.5 kilohash plus minus some. And Uranus miner on rig 13 to 18 is sitting around that 10.5 kilohash mark. They are all around 3.7 gigahertz at about 0.95 to 1 volt, whatever is stable for you based on Silicon Lottery. So I began my tests with AstroMiner versus Uranus. And on day 1, AstroMiner, you can see on the left-hand side here, found 11 blocks. And on the right, we got Uranus, found 6 blocks after 24 hours with 6 rigs on each node. So we can see that AstroMiner actually found almost, but not quite, twice as many blocks here, short by 1. So the winner for day 1 is AstroMiner. All right, so now we have day 2, and we can see again, AstroMiner on the left found again another 11 blocks, and Uranus on day 2 found 8. Now it's a little closer span, but we can still see within 2 days, both times, AstroMiner is the winner. All right, so I did declare AstroMiner the winner versus Uranus miner. So now I put Astro versus Hansen's miner. If you remember from the beginning here, Hansen was the lowest hash rate between the 3 numbers, but it comes packing a punch. So Astro versus Hansen, day 1, Astro did find 18 blocks in the 24-hour period, and Hansen found 14. So Astro is the winner again on day 1. But it was a much closer gap than when Astro was versus Uranus miner. And for day 2 of Astro versus Hansen, on the left, we have Astro finding 10 blocks, where Hansen's miner was 6 blocks. So again, AstroMiner is the winner between the three miners altogether. Now, going in, I did think Hansen Miner was going to take day 2 because it was up like, it had 4 or 5 blocks where AstroMiner was only at like 2 or something, and then overnight came, morning hit, and this was the final results. AstroMiner kind of took over overnight, but Hansen did jump to a very big start from the get-go. Again, you know, luck-based and so on. Between all the tests, it does look like AstroMiner is the best miner, and there is a new AstroMiner available now as well, and Hansen is working on some upgrades to his miner. So once both are released, or maybe a couple updates, I will revisit them again and see if Hansen Miner does take off and potentially win. I feel there's a lot going on here, and it comes down to another thing. A lot of people just run straight into what has the most hash rate, and based on previous tests, even with the original Dero miner versus Dero Plus, it doesn't really work out that way. A better miner is a better miner. It's not always about the hash rate. So keep these things in mind. Don't just jump to something. But here we are. It is looking like more blocks are found with AstroMiner. And now for the final part of this video is the testing on the test bench on the 3900X. So the settings was 3.7 gigahertz at 1 volt. And here you can see I went with hash rate, 2 sticks, CL16 RAM, XMP profile off, XMP profile on. I also did the same thing with CL14 RAM off and on as well, 1 stick and 2 sticks across the board. You can pause this and kind of go through it, but I'm going to run through some things here. You can see the different hash rates that I have. Now for the power, this is all at the wall. That's your complete system. Everything involved, not just your CPU. AstroMiner, you can see here are 2 sticks of CL16 XMP off RAM. We're at 100 watts. Hansen's miner was 88 to 93 watts, and Uranus was 94. Now, that's one thing I kind of want to bring up here. Hansen's miner was jumping constantly, like every half a second to a second. The power consumption was jumping all over within this range here. I picked the lowest as well as the highest. Now, the other miners, they were consistent. They were jumping maybe like 0.2, 0.4, but nothing within like a whole watt. They were consistent at their 94 for Uranus and consistent at the 100. And that's what I found in all the testing here. And that's why I did put the range when it comes to the Hansen miners, so you can see the gaps between each one here. So you can now see exactly what everything looks like in terms of at the wall, power consumption, everything. Like I said, pause it, go through it. I don't think you need me to read it all for you, but the information for a Ryzen 3900X on Dero between the 3 miners are all right here. All right, guys, so there is the results of the 3 miners as well as testing a 3900X, so you can kind of get an idea of the power consumption based on the settings that I use. Again, 3.7 gigahertz, 1 volt on the 3900X. And you can drop that voltage down to 0.95 to 0.97 and so on, depending on Silicon Lottery. I did bump that one up a little bit because when I did swap to RandomX, I did have some outages at times. So that's why I did bump that to 1 volt. But that rig does actually run at 0.98 volts on Dero itself. As for the miners, again, I'm going to say AstroMiner is the winner in this round of testing, so I would recommend that miner for you guys to use. There are all sorts of different dev fees, but at the end, you know, Astro is the one that found me the most amount of blocks. Now, the other thing is, I do got to maybe test the pools out and stuff, because early on, I know the reports, I never really tested it out to see if that was accurate or not, but when Dero Plus first came out, that was the first big miner over the original Dero miner, and it didn't find the blocks when mining to a node, which is why the original Dero miner was better, at least until Uranus did come out. But allegedly, the hash rate was getting paid out on pools. Now, this could lead to a huge conspiracy. So let's think about it. What if there's a miner that doesn't really find blocks, which Dero Plus didn't, but if it was getting paid out for its hash rate, which I don't really know how it would work because you got to send the shares and maybe it was just unlucky or who knows. Regardless, it didn't find the blocks, but it sounded like it may have been getting paid for its hash rate on some of the pools, which means that hurts the pools because they're not finding the blocks, and then everyone, the whole pool in general, becomes less profitable over people using the miners that actually find blocks. Now, for the miner itself, he doesn't care because he's getting paid for his hashes, but he's stealing from everyone else. Again, you know, it's a huge conspiracy thing. It hasn't been confirmed or tested. We're not using Dero Plus anymore. That's way back in the past, but that's still other things we do have to test when it comes to finding blocks versus hash rate and so on the pools and everything. At the end of the day, it's always best to mine to your own node. That helps with decentralization. That's the way Captain wants Dero to be mined. But again, do whatever you want. I have the Rabid pool. There's a community pools. Use whatever one you want. Dero is Dero, and we all love to decentralize and just keep it at that. Now, with all that testing being done, I do want to say that it does sound like a GPU miner is in the works, and you know, it may already be on the network. We're seeing some pretty massive hash rate spikes, you know, over the past 24 hours or so, up towards a 550. I don't know, it might have hit 600 mega hash, but it was over 550 mega hash. That's the highest it's ever hit. It didn't last very long, so it may have just be more of that botnets coming from some large farms or something. I don't know. But it does sound like a GPU miner is coming. Now, I don't know if that is a potential, I guess, flood of FPGAs may hit the network again. Will there be a fork after that? I don't know. I did message Captain, who is the head dev for Dero, and I asked him about GPUs. He is open to GPUs as long as they don't have an unfair advantage over the CPU. So if the hash rate is greatly above CPUs, right now it looks like they might be pretty close or on par, maybe a slight bit more power. It's still hard to say until we see it. But if they get a huge advantage over, then it sounds like Captain may do something, because it's intended to be a mostly CPU mineable coin. So I think that's awesome, especially being a CPU miner myself, and a lot of you guys are really on the fence about getting more CPUs or not, because that's a huge deal. Dero is one of them, you know, it's the most profitable coin for CPUs right now. And if it gets flooded with GPUs, because there's a crap ton of GPUs that are looking for a home. So if they're on par, the Dero profits are going to die, because there's going to be a lot of GPUs flooding in. Now, if GPUs seem to end up, you know, through tweaking in the future a lot better, then maybe we will see another fork. Again, I cannot confirm or deny any of this, because I don't control what happens on Dero. That's just kind of the information that I know of right now. Anyway, guys, so that is it. That is the end of the results. Let me know what miner you're using. If you're mining Dero, what you're mining to. You're running a node. If you need any help, I'll do another how to mine video, because we didn't have AstroMiner and stuff at the time when I last did all that. So I'll do some updated videos on how to mine Dero as well. But thank you for checking this out. I will see you all in the next one. Rabid out.